The mysterious signal. In the vast, dark expanse of space, where stars twinkled like distant dreams, the Galactic Coalition had gathered once again in their most secure command center, a place where the most important decisions for the fate of the galaxy were made. It was a quiet evening, a rare moment of peace in a galaxy torn by endless wars. But even in peace, the Coalition's leaders were always alert, for they knew that danger could strike from anywhere, at any time. Suddenly, a soft beep interrupted the silence in the control room. It was a signal, weak but persistent. At first, it seemed like just another background noise in the ever-noisy universe. But then, the signal became stronger. It was clear and unmistakable. The officer in charge, a sharp-eyed alien with blue skin and multiple eyes, immediately noticed the anomaly. "Commander, this signal. It's not like anything we've ever encountered before," she said, her voice a mixture of curiosity and concern. The commander's chair creaked as he turned toward the console, a tall, imposing figure whose face showed the weight of countless battles fought and won. "Show me," he ordered. The screen in front of him flickered as the signal appeared, and it was unlike any of the typical communications they received. It wasn't just a random burst of energy or a faulty transmission. No, this signal had purpose, a pattern to it. And what truly caught their attention was its origin. It was coming from the location of a system thought long forgotten, a place where the human race had once lived before their supposed extinction. "Is it possible?" the commander muttered, more to himself than anyone else in the room. The officer's voice trembled with uncertainty. "Sir, this signal, it's coming from the location where the humans were last known to have been. Their homeworld was lost, forgotten after their sudden disappearance centuries ago." The commander stood up, his brow furrowed with confusion. The humans, Earth's people, had been thought to have vanished 1,000 years ago, wiped out by a mysterious enemy. The Galactic Coalition had spent years trying to piece together the fragments of humanity's legacy, but nothing ever came close to explaining what had truly happened to them. It had always been a mystery. And now, this signal was bringing their past back into focus. The commander pressed his hands against the console. "Track the signal," he said firmly, "and bring me a full report. I need answers." As the officers scrambled to do his bidding, the commander couldn't shake the feeling of unease. What if this signal was a trap? What if the humans, long thought to be gone, had returned with a vengeance? Or worse, what if they had never truly vanished, and their enemies had hidden them away, preparing for their return? The screen in front of him began to display coordinates, each one leading deeper into a sector of space that even the most advanced ships hesitated to explore. It was near an ancient nebula, a place shrouded in mystery and danger. Known as the Veil Nebula, it had been the site of countless disappearances over the centuries. Some said the nebula held secrets so old that they predated the known universe. Others believed it was cursed, a place where the laws of space itself twisted and bent. "Ready the fleet," the commander ordered, his voice growing more urgent. "Prepare for an expedition. This is no ordinary signal. We need to find out who or what is sending it." The fleet was small but highly advanced. Ships of varying shapes and sizes, each crafted for speed, stealth, and power, were quickly mobilized. The Coalition had their best officers, their brightest minds, and their most skilled pilots ready for what they hoped would be an easy investigation. But the commander had a sinking feeling in his gut that it wouldn't be that simple. The unknown was always more dangerous than it appeared. As the fleet made its way toward the coordinates, tension grew thick among the officers. Rumors of humanity's return had been whispered for years, but no one had ever truly believed it. To most of the galaxy, humanity was a forgotten chapter, a species that had disappeared without a trace. Yet here now, in the cold emptiness of space, the unthinkable was happening. A signal, clear, direct, and undeniably human in origin, was pulsing through the void. The commander leaned back in his chair, gazing at the star maps. Why now? He wondered aloud. Why after all these centuries? What could they possibly want with us? His thoughts were interrupted by a sharp voice. "Sir, we are approaching the nebula," an officer called from across the room. "Good," the commander replied, his tone steady but laced with anticipation. "Prepare to enter the veil. Set course for the source of the signal." The fleet adjusted its course, and the ships entered the misty expanse of the Veil Nebula. Inside the nebula, the stars were dimmed by a thick cloud of dust and gas, making navigation difficult. The signal grew stronger as they drew closer. It was almost as if the signal itself was alive, pulsing in a rhythm that matched the heartbeat of the fleet. But the closer they got, the more uneasy the commander felt. Something wasn't right. The stars seemed to flicker in and out of existence. The very fabric of space seemed to warp and bend around them. This was no ordinary nebula. This was something much older, much more dangerous. And it was here, at the edge of the galaxy, that humanity's forgotten legacy would soon be revealed. As the fleet advanced, they had no idea that the past they were about to uncover would shake the foundation of the Galactic Coalition to its core. The humans, or whatever remained of them, were about to return, and nothing would ever be the same again. The fleet entered the Veil Nebula with trepidation. Its swirling mists of gas and dust distorted the light from distant stars, creating a haze that obscured everything. The crew was used to dangerous environments, but this was different. The atmosphere was thick with an eerie sense of something ancient, something waiting. The commander's ship, a sleek, advanced vessel, led the way, flanked by two smaller scout ships. Their scanners hummed as they carefully navigated through the darkened maze of the nebula, each officer alert, their eyes scanning the endless space. For hours, there was nothing but the hum of machinery and the occasional distant beep from the scanners. The signal continued, unbroken, growing stronger the closer they got. "Captain," said one of the officers, breaking the silence, "we are nearing the source. I'm detecting an anomaly. A structure. It's massive." The commander's eyes narrowed. "Structure. In the heart of the veil." "Yes, sir," the officer confirmed. "It's unlike anything we've seen. The readings are off the charts." The commander's pulse quickened. This was it. This was what they had been waiting for. Whatever lay ahead, it was important. The galaxy had been waiting for this moment. Humanity's supercarrier, lost for so long, was about to be uncovered. "All ships, prepare for scanning. Keep your weapons on standby. We don't know what we're walking into," the commander ordered, his voice steady but commanding. The ships shifted positions, their scanners aimed at the anomaly ahead. It was massive, cloaked in the heart of the nebula, hidden from all prying eyes. It was almost as if it had been waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. As the fleet moved closer, the true scale of the structure became visible. It was a ship, but not just any ship. It was a relic, a warship of unimaginable proportions, a supercarrier that could house thousands of soldiers and countless fleets. The hull was adorned with ancient symbols, symbols of humanity's long-lost civilization, carved into the very metal as if they were warnings from the past. The commander's breath caught in his throat. The structure was enormous, stretching across the stars like a forgotten titan. Its surface was dark, pockmarked with damage, but it was still intact, despite the millennia that had passed since it was last seen. The signal was emanating from deep within the ship. "Open a comm channel," the commander ordered. He needed to communicate with the crew on the ground. "Contact the scout ships. We need to land on this vessel." The ships began to move closer, their engines slowly decelerating as they approached the mysterious supercarrier. The ship's exterior was unlike any other. Its design was ancient, built to endure the test of time. As the ships hovered near the surface, the crew could see massive docking bays, empty now, but once capable of holding entire fleets. "Commander," the officer said, his voice tinged with awe, "we've located a docking port. It's open, and it looks like it was designed for immediate access. Shall we proceed?" The commander hesitated for a moment. This was uncharted territory. They were stepping into the unknown. But something about the situation felt right. The signal had led them here, and now they were on the cusp of discovering the truth. "Proceed," the commander said, his voice unwavering. "We will investigate this ship, but stay alert. We don't know what we're dealing with." The fleet moved cautiously toward the docking port. As the ships passed through the opening, a sense of awe and disbelief washed over the crew. They were about to step onto a ship that had been lost to time, a ship that held the legacy of a civilization that had vanished 1,000 years ago. The crew members looked around at one another, uncertain of what to expect. But as the landing gear touched the deck of the Supercarrier, they knew that this was a turning point. Whatever secrets this ship held, it would change everything. The commander led the way, stepping out of the ship first. His boots echoed on the metal floor of the Supercarrier, a stark contrast to the eerie silence that surrounded them. The interior was dark, its lights long since faded, but the structures inside remained mostly intact. There were signs of battle, scorched walls, broken weapons, and debris scattered across the ground. "This place, it feels like a tomb," one of the officers muttered, her voice barely above a whisper. "Keep your wits about you," the commander warned, his eyes scanning the dimly lit corridors. "Stay focused. We're not here to pay our respects to the past. We're here to find out why this ship is here, and who sent that signal." As they moved further into the Supercarrier, they encountered the remains of old technology. Displays and terminals covered in dust, old equipment that had not seen use in centuries. The walls were lined with ancient murals, depicting the history of humanity. But there was something strange about these images. Some of them had been scratched out, erased, as if someone wanted to hide something. "What happened here?" the commander whispered, more to himself than anyone else. They continued to explore deeper into the heart of the Supercarrier, each step taking them further away from the familiar world they had once known. They passed through what appeared to be a control room, its main terminal still operational. The screens flickered, and strange symbols flashed on the display. The crew members tried to decipher them, but it was clear that this was a language no one in the Galactic Coalition understood. And then suddenly, a new signal, stronger, clearer, burst through the system. The commander's heart raced. This was no longer just a mystery. This was something bigger, something more dangerous. "This is it," he said, his voice steady. "We're about to find out who, or what, is behind the return of humanity's Supercarrier." The mystery was only beginning. And the truth, whatever it was, would soon shake the Galactic Coalition to its very core. The deeper the crew ventured into the heart of the Supercarrier, the more they realized that nothing was as it seemed. The eerie silence inside the ship grew thicker, and the strange symbols on the walls seemed to pulse with an energy of their own. The crew moved cautiously, their steps echoing in the desolate halls of the long-forgotten warship. Commander Thorne was at the front, his eyes scanning every inch of the interior. The walls of the Supercarrier were covered in layers of dust, but it wasn't just the dust that disturbed him. It was the strange markings on the floor. It looked as though something, or someone, had walked through the ship long after it had been abandoned. The footprints were faint, but they were there, and they led straight into the deepest recesses of the ship. "Everyone, stay sharp," Commander Thorne said, his voice low but firm. "We need to find the source of that signal, but we also need to know who or what else is here." The crew followed him, their weapons drawn and their senses heightened. The atmosphere grew colder the further they moved. It felt as though the ship itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The further they went, the more oppressive the silence became. The occasional flicker of light from the old terminals was the only sign that the ship wasn't entirely dead. Then they reached the command center. It was a massive chamber, far larger than any of them had expected. In the center of the room was a strange console, its surface smooth and untouched by the ravages of time. The control panels, while old, still seemed to hum with life, as though the ship itself was waiting for a command. Commander Thorne approached cautiously, He could feel the tension rising in the air. As he neared the console, he reached out and gently touched the surface. Immediately, the room seemed to come alive. The flickering lights grew steadier, and the screens on the walls began to shift, displaying strange symbols and cryptic messages. The air crackled with energy. "What's happening?" one of the officers asked, stepping forward. "I don't know," Thorne replied, his voice filled with awe. "But it seems like the ship is responding to us." The screens finally settled on a single image, a star map of the galaxy, with a bright red dot pulsating in the center. Thorne stared at it, his heart pounding in his chest. The dot was on a planet in a remote sector of the galaxy, one that had never been explored by the Galactic Coalition. The map wasn't just a map, it was a message. "This is where the signal is coming from," Thorne said, pointing at the red dot. "It's not just a beacon. It's guiding us somewhere." The officer standing beside him nodded. "But why now? Why after all these years?" Thorne turned to face his crew, his mind racing. "We need to go to that planet. This ship, this supercarrier, is part of something bigger, something humanity left behind. And it's clear that someone or something is trying to lead us to it." Without hesitation, he ordered the crew to prepare the fleet for departure. They were about to follow the signal to a distant planet, a planet that no one had ever heard of. But there was a problem. The planet was far from their current position, and it would take time to reach. The ship had long since stopped providing vital information, and the crew was unsure of what dangers awaited them along the way. "We'll need to move quickly," Thorne said, glancing at the ship's time projection. This ship wasn't just abandoned. It was left for a reason. And whatever is out there, we need to find it before someone else does. As the crew worked to prepare the fleet for the journey, Thorne couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into something they didn't fully understand. The signal had been a warning, a call to action. But who had sent it? And why had humanity's supercarrier been hidden away in the first place? "Captain," one of the officers called from behind him. "We've discovered something else. There's a hidden compartment buried deep within the ship. It wasn't listed in the original schematics." Thorne's heart skipped a beat. Another hidden secret. His instincts told him that this could be the key to unlocking the mystery. "Show me." The officer led him to a small, seemingly insignificant section of the supercarrier. The door was rusted, and the metal around it had been worn away by the passage of time. But when they managed to open it, they found something unexpected. Inside was a small room, a room that seemed untouched by the decay around it. It was filled with ancient data drives, all neatly arranged. Thorne crouched down and examined the drives. These weren't just any old data storage devices. They were far more advanced than anything they had ever encountered. It was clear that someone had hidden these away, knowing that one day they would be needed. But who? And for what purpose? "Take these to the ship's command center," Thorne ordered. "We need to see what's on them." As the crew worked to extract the data from the drives, the sense of mystery deepened. There was something larger at play here, something far beyond a simple lost ship. Whoever had left this behind had done so with purpose, and Thorne was beginning to realize that he was at the center of something that could change the fate of the entire galaxy. The supercarrier, the signal, the hidden compartment, it all pointed to one thing: the return of humanity, and the incredible legacy they had left behind. Thorne couldn't help but wonder, was humanity's return truly a sign of hope, or had they left behind something far more dangerous? The answer was out there, waiting for them to find it. With the data drives securely retrieved, Commander Thorne's mind raced. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the verge of something monumental. What secrets could the drives hold? What was waiting for them on that distant planet? And why had humanity's supercarrier been abandoned for so long? The questions piled up, but the answers seemed to be as elusive as the stars themselves. The crew worked tirelessly to prepare for the journey. The supercarrier was an ancient vessel, its systems outdated and fragile, but it still held the potential to carry them to the mysterious planet. They would need to use every ounce of their knowledge and resources to make it operational again. As the ship's engines hummed to life, Commander Thorne gathered his crew on the bridge, ready to depart. The air was thick with anticipation, and the hum of the engines seemed to echo the rising tension in their hearts. Everyone knew that this wasn't just another mission. It was something far greater. The signal, the hidden compartment, the mysterious planet, they all pointed to a singular truth. Humanity's return was not just inevitable. It was by design. "All systems are green," the chief engineer reported. "We're ready to go, sir." Thorne nodded, his gaze fixed on the star map projected before him. The red dot on the map pulsed, guiding them toward the unknown. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him, and he understood that there was no turning back now. Whatever awaited them, they had to face it together. "Let's move out," Thorne ordered. The massive supercarrier slowly began to shift, its engines roaring to life as the crew set course for the distant planet. The ship groaned as it adjusted to the strain, its ancient systems straining against the weight of the years. But there was something else, a quiet hum in the background, almost like a voice urging them forward. It was the same hum they had felt when they first activated the supercarrier systems. Something, or someone, was guiding them. As the ship broke free from the gravity well of the nearby star, Thorne glanced at his crew. They were focused, each member with a look of determination on their face. But Thorne couldn't ignore the growing sense of unease. They had no idea what they were walking into. The unknown was both exhilarating and terrifying. The journey to the planet would take several days. The crew would have time to study the data drives and try to decode whatever secrets they held. Thorne had already ordered the highest-ranking officers to examine the files, but he couldn't help but feel that the true meaning of the message lay beyond technology. It was something more profound, something older, hidden deep within the supercarrier. As the crew settled into their routine, Thorne found himself alone in his quarters late one night. The ship was silent except for the soft hum of the engines, and he used the time to review the data they had collected. One particular file caught his attention, a series of coordinates that didn't match anything on the star maps. They were scattered across the galaxy, each point marked with a symbol that seemed to resemble the ones inside the supercarrier. Could these be markers? Thorne muttered to himself. It wasn't just a theory. He had seen similar symbols etched into the walls of the supercarrier, and they seemed to correspond to the coordinates. The message was becoming clearer, but it raised more questions than answers. Who had placed these markers? What did they mean? And why had humanity hidden this knowledge away for so long? Thorne's thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock at the door. He turned to see Lieutenant Harper standing in the doorway, a tablet in hand. "Commander, you need to see this," she said, her voice tense. Thorne motioned for her to enter. Harper stepped inside, handing him the tablet. It was a file containing the decoded data from one of the drives. As Thorne scanned the document, his eyes widened. The data contained references to an ancient war, one fought long before the rise of the Galactic Coalition. It was a war between humanity and a mysterious alien species, a war that had been lost to time. "Is this?" Thorne trailed off, unable to fully comprehend what he was reading. Harper nodded grimly. "It's humanity's last battle. And it looks like it wasn't just a battle for survival. It was a battle for something far more valuable, something that could change the course of the entire galaxy." Thorne's mind raced. This was the missing piece, the final piece to the puzzle. Humanity's supercarrier wasn't just a relic of the past. It was a weapon, a tool of unimaginable power, hidden away for centuries. "We need to find out what this is," Thorne said, his voice filled with urgency. "Whatever it is, it's the key to everything." Harper looked at him, a sense of resolve in her eyes. "And we need to make sure that we're the ones who uncover it first." Thorne nodded. "Agreed. The galaxy doesn't know it yet, but humanity's return is about to change everything." As the ship continued its journey, Thorne knew that the stakes had just become much higher. The galaxy was teetering on the brink of something far greater than anyone could imagine, and humanity's supercarrier, its long-lost weapon, was the key to unlocking it. The journey to the unknown planet was more than just a mission. It was the beginning of something much bigger, and Thorn had no intention of letting anyone stand in their way. Days passed as the supercarrier drifted through the vastness of space, its engines steadily pushing it toward the distant planet marked by the mysterious signal. The crew worked tirelessly, trying to piece together the fragments of history stored in the data drives. The file Lieutenant Harper had found was only the beginning, but every new discovery raised more questions than answers. Commander Thorn sat in his quarters, sifting through the latest decoded files. He rubbed his temples, his mind overwhelmed by the vastness of the information. The more he learned, the more he realized that humanity's disappearance had not been by accident. It was part of something much larger, a plan set in motion long before anyone on the ship was born. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he called, setting the tablet aside. Harper stepped inside, her expression serious. "Commander, you need to see this." Thorn stood, motioning for her to sit. He could sense the gravity in her tone. Harper handed him another tablet, this one containing a series of encrypted messages that had been pulled from the supercarrier's old communication systems. The encryption was like nothing the crew had encountered before, but after hours of work, they had cracked it. Thorn read through the message, his brow furrowing as he processed the words. The message wasn't just a communication. It was a warning, a final command from someone or something far beyond anything they had encountered. It says, "Humanity's time has come. The galaxy is not ready for what you will awaken." Thorn paused, looking up at Harper. This isn't just about survival. It's about something far bigger, something the galaxy is not prepared for. Harper's eyes widened. "Do you think that's why they were extinct? They were hiding something too dangerous?" "It's possible," Thorn replied, his voice heavy with the weight of the implication. "But if that's true, then why now? Why return?" The crew had always known that their journey was fraught with danger, but this revelation changed everything. Humanity wasn't just coming back to reclaim its place in the galaxy. It was returning to unlock something that had been hidden away for millennia. But the message was clear. This was no ordinary discovery. The galaxy, as it stood, wasn't prepared for the power humanity had locked away. The thought gnawed at Thorn. Could they trust the supercarrier's ancient systems? Could they unlock the secrets of humanity's lost past without triggering a disaster? Harper seemed to sense his unease. "What should we do next, sir?" Thorn took a deep breath, looking out the window of his quarters at the stars that passed by in a blur. "We continue the journey," he said, his voice resolute. "But we proceed carefully. We need to understand what's waiting for us before we make any moves." Harper nodded, her expression still one of concern. She knew as well as he did that time was running out. The closer they got to the planet, the more the tension among the crew grew. They all knew that whatever lay ahead, it was going to change everything. The next day, the supercarrier reached the outer rim of the star system they had been heading toward. The planet loomed large in the distance, its surface covered in swirling clouds and a faint glow. It looked serene from afar, but Thorn knew better. There was something about the planet that felt wrong. Too perfect, too quiet. The crew gathered on the bridge as the supercarrier entered the planet's atmosphere. Thorn stood at the helm, his eyes scanning the data screens. The planet's coordinates were exact, as though someone had planned for them to arrive here. But what had they been waiting for? And why? "Commander, we've encountered a faint energy signature on the surface," the ship's sensor officer reported. "It's unlike anything we've ever detected before." "Prepare for landing," Thorn ordered, his voice calm but his heart pounding in his chest. The time had come. As the supercarrier descended, the crew watched in silence. The ship's massive frame vibrated as it passed through the thick atmosphere, the heat from re-entry pressing against the hull. The mysterious energy signature grew stronger, and the air on the bridge seemed to thrum with anticipation. Finally, the ship touched down on the planet's surface. The ground beneath them was rocky, barren, and dark. Thorn's heart raced as he stepped onto the planet's surface for the first time. It was eerily quiet, the only sound the hum of the Supercarrier's engines. "We're here," Thorn said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Let's see what secrets this planet holds." The crew disembarked, stepping onto the unknown world with caution. The air was thick with dust, and the sky above them was a strange shade of orange. They moved forward, the weight of their mission heavy on their shoulders. Each step felt like they were venturing into a forgotten past, a past that humanity had hidden away for its own survival. As they walked, the crew noticed strange markings etched into the rocks around them, symbols similar to the ones Thorn had seen on the Supercarrier. They were everywhere, as if they were leading the crew somewhere. Thorn's mind raced. "These symbols, they're a trail," he murmured to himself. "A map. Where do they lead?" Harper asked, her voice tense. "I don't know," Thorn replied, his voice grim. "But we're about to find out." The crew followed the markings, deeper into the unknown. With every step, the tension in the air thickened. Whatever secret this planet held, it was buried deep, and humanity's Supercarrier, long thought to be a relic, had come back for this moment. For the truth, the planet's surface was more barren than Thorn had imagined. Jagged rocks and ancient ruins stood in stark contrast to the vibrant energy pulsing beneath the ground. The crew moved with caution, the sense of unease only growing stronger with each passing minute. Something was hidden here, something powerful, something that had been waiting for centuries. The symbols etched into the rocks continued to guide their way, each one glowing faintly in the dim light, as if beckoning them forward. As they descended into a large cavern, the air grew heavier, the temperature colder. It felt as if the very earth beneath them was alive, watching their every move. Thorn paused, raising a hand to signal the crew to halt. "Stay sharp. We're close." The cavern stretched before them like a labyrinth, winding and twisting with no clear path. The air was thick with dust, and the only sound was the distant hum of the ship's engines. They followed the markings down a narrow tunnel, each step echoing in the silence. Then, just as they were beginning to lose hope of finding anything, the ground beneath them trembled. "Did you feel that?" Harper asked, her voice tight with suspicion. Thorn didn't respond at first, his eyes scanning the darkened passage. There it was again, the subtle vibration in the ground. The energy signature from the planet's surface had intensified, now pulsing in sync with the tremors. Something was happening. "Everyone, stay close," Thorn ordered. He could feel it now, too. The planet was alive in a way that couldn't be explained. It was as though the very Earth was preparing for something monumental. They continued forward, the tunnel opening into a massive chamber. The walls were covered in more symbols, but these were different. Larger, more intricate, as if they were ancient blueprints. They glowed faintly with a blue light, illuminating the entire room. At the center of the chamber stood an enormous structure, half buried in the earth. It looked like a massive vault, covered in layers of dust and debris. The Supercarrier's systems had detected an anomaly at this location, and now, as they stood before it, the reality of what lay inside began to settle in. Thorn approached cautiously, his fingers brushing the surface of the vault. The air seemed to grow even heavier. He looked at Harper, who was standing nearby, her eyes wide in awe. "What is this?" Harper whispered, her voice barely audible. "This," Thorn said, his voice shaking with the realization, "is humanity's legacy." Without warning, the ground trembled again, more violently this time. The chamber filled with a low, resonating hum, and the structure before them began to stir. The symbols on the walls lit up one by one, until the entire room was bathed in a blinding light. The crew stepped back in shock, shielding their eyes from the intensity of the glow. The vault began to shift, slowly at first, then with increasing speed. The dust and debris surrounding it began to rise, swirling in the air like a vortex. Thorn's heart raced. It's opening. As the vault's heavy doors slowly creaked open, a low, mechanical whirring filled the room. A massive energy surge erupted from the vault, lighting up the entire cavern. The crew staggered back, the intensity of the power causing the very walls of the chamber to shake. Inside, a massive sphere, pulsing with energy, began to float upward. The sphere's surface was smooth, dark, and reflective, with intricate designs etched into its surface. It was as if it was alive, its energy radiating throughout the room, creating a constant hum in the air. Is this the weapon?" Harper asked, her voice filled with both awe and fear. Thorn didn't respond immediately. His mind raced as he processed what he was seeing. Could this be the ancient technology that had caused humanity's sudden disappearance? Was this the reason they had left the galaxy so abruptly? "Prepare for anything," Thorn said, his voice grave. "This could change everything." The sphere began to pulse faster, its light growing brighter with each passing second. The crew felt the pressure of the energy building in the air. Something was coming. Something powerful. Something that had been waiting for millennia. Without warning, the sphere began to emit a sharp, piercing sound, like a cry that reverberated through the entire chamber. The crew winced in pain, clutching their ears as the noise grew louder. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, the sound stopped. For a brief moment, there was silence. Then, the sphere's surface began to crack. "Get back," Thorn shouted, instinctively stepping in front of Harper as the cracks in the sphere widened. The crew scrambled to put distance between themselves and the mysterious artifact. The cracks spread rapidly, and with one final deafening crack, the sphere shattered. Inside, there was nothing but darkness. But in that darkness, something moved. A figure, tall, humanoid, and cloaked in shadows, emerged from the broken sphere. Its features were obscured, but there was a sense of ancient power radiating from it, as though it had been awoken from a long slumber. Thorn's heart stopped. Was this the key to humanity's disappearance? The being that had been locked away for centuries? The figure took a step forward, its presence filling the room with an overwhelming force. The crew stood frozen, unsure of what to do next. Then, in a voice that echoed through the chamber, the figure spoke. "Humanity has returned." The figure stood before them, an entity of darkness and light. Its form was vaguely humanoid, yet there was an aura of something far older, far more ancient. It was as though it had lived through the rise and fall of entire civilizations, watching over the galaxy with patience that spanned eons. Thorn felt a chill run through him, but it wasn't fear, not exactly. There was awe too. This being, whatever it was connected to humanity's mysterious disappearance. And now, it seemed, humanity had returned in some form. The figure's voice echoed throughout the chamber, deep and resonant, vibrating in the bones of every crew member. "Humanity has returned," it said again, "and the galaxy will tremble." Harper, still standing behind Thorn, took a cautious step forward, her voice trembling. "Who are you?" The figure tilted its head slightly, as though contemplating the question. For a moment, there was only silence, the air thick with the weight of its presence. "I am the custodian," the being finally said, "the guardian of humanity's legacy. I have waited for this moment." Thorn's heart pounded in his chest. "Waited for what?" "For you," the custodian replied. "For humanity's return. The galaxy has changed. It is no longer the same place it once was." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. What had changed? And why had humanity been gone for so long? The answers to those questions were slipping through their fingers like grains of sand, too vast to grasp, too powerful to ignore. "What happened to us?" Thorn asked, his voice almost a whisper. "Why did humanity disappear?" The custodian's expression seemed to harden, the shadows around it deepening. The galaxy did not deserve humanity's gifts, it said, its voice now carrying an edge of bitterness. So, humanity withdrew. You left, and the galaxy was lost without you. Harper stepped closer, her curiosity burning brighter than her fear. But we're back now. Why? The custodian's eyes, though shrouded in shadow, glowed faintly. Because the time has come. The galaxy has fallen into chaos. The once great empires are on the brink of collapse. Your enemies have grown stronger, and their weapons more deadly. The galaxy needs a savior, and humanity is the only one who can restore balance. Thorn was silent, processing the gravity of the situation. Humanity had not just disappeared. They had left for a reason. And now, as the galaxy teetered on the edge of destruction, they were being called back. But how could they possibly return after so long? What do we do now? Thorn finally asked. The custodian's lips, if they could be called lips, curved into something akin to a smile. It wasn't warm or comforting. It was cold and knowing. You will reclaim what was once yours, the custodian replied. Your supercarriers, your fleets, your weapons, all of it. They are hidden, scattered across the galaxy, waiting to be found. And once you have them, the galaxy will know that humanity is back. But be warned, it added, your enemies will not give up without a fight. They will do anything to stop you. Thorn's mind raced, reclaiming the lost power of humanity. Was it possible? And if so, could they defeat the galactic powers that had risen in their absence? There was no way to know. All they had was the custodian's cryptic warning and the unknown technology they had just uncovered. We need to gather our forces, Thorn said, his voice growing stronger. We can't do this alone. The custodian nodded slowly. You will not be alone. The remnants of humanity are scattered across the stars. Some have forgotten their origins, others have embraced them. They will come when they are called. But be ready. The galaxy will not welcome you back with open arms. The tension in the room thickened as the reality of their mission set in. Humanity was no longer just an idea, a forgotten memory of the past. They were a force that had been dormant for centuries, waiting for the right moment to return. And that moment had come. Thorn turned to his crew, who were still in shock, but began to steady themselves. Prepare yourselves. We have a lot of work to do. The galaxy won't know what hit it. With that, they turned and began to leave the chamber, heading toward the ship. The custodian's final words echoed in their minds as they moved. The galaxy will tremble. And it would, because humanity was coming back, stronger than ever before. As they boarded the ship and took their seats, Thorn glanced back at the massive vault where the custodian had emerged. The vastness of their mission was overwhelming, but the resolve in his chest was undeniable. Humanity was not only returning, it was going to take the galaxy by storm.